We've been exploring the Old Testament prophets and what they had to say in terms of anticipation concerning the coming of Messiah. Much of the language that we encounter as we look through the Old Testament prophets was picked up in the lyrics of the 275-year-old oratorio called Handel's Messiah. Some of you managed to take in one of those performances in High River on Friday night, or here last night as the Okotoks Philharmonic Chorus and Orchestra presented those here. Babylonian Empire, but this time God did not spare them. Jerusalem fell, the temple was destroyed. It was devastating. It was devastating. I mean, God had given his people, the first people of God, He'd given them this land. And now they were being removed from it. We can identify with that. If you can imagine, your home's been destroyed. And you and your family, or those who've survived the military advance, are being taken off to a place that you've never been before, to serve a king that you don't like at all. And you have no idea what your future is going to be. You can only just begin to imagine the despair that the people must have been going through. And for some, it was a very difficult time, but God actually favored the nation of Israel in extraordinary ways, even while they were in captivity. Even while He was judging their sin and purifying His people, He was favoring His people. So you get accounts like in the book of Daniel, the prophet Daniel. And you get Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You've probably heard those accounts. Where God was at work favoring these young men, using them significantly in the nation while they were away in exile. But underlying all of that is this deeper concern, this question: has God abandoned us? Like, where is God in the midst of our pain? How can God love us and simultaneously allow us to go through, or even cause us to go through, such great difficulty? There was a way of thinking in the ancient Near East that was very common, and that was that the nation with the strongest God is the one that wins the battle. So this was common. Now, the Israelites should have been immune from that. They should have known better, but this is still kind of the culture of the day, and it naturally kind of calls them to say, well, is that true? Like, Yahweh, who's revealed Himself as creator of the heavens and the earth, where is He in the midst of all of this? You know, like the great psalmist David claimed that Psalm 62, he claimed this of God: truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Surely? Like, really? Like, where is He in all of this? And God's answer, at least in part, comes in this middle section of Isaiah, chapters 40 through 55. It's in that section that we're introduced by the prophet to the faithful servant, or the faithful son, whom God will send, and this servant will be obedient to God. This servant will accomplish what all the others have failed to accomplish, and he will do so on behalf of all who will receive him. So this might be familiar to you. This is from Isaiah 53 in that middle section. Listen to this. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, He was despised, and we held Him in low esteem. Surely He took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered Him punished by God, stricken by Him, and afflicted. But He was pierced for our transgressions, for sin. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on Him. And by His wounds, we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on Him the iniquity, the sin of us all. Now, stay with me here. We're kind of getting to the context of Isaiah chapter 60 that we're looking at today from Handel's oratorio. The first section, speaking into Isaiah's own time, his immediate context, when the Assyrians were around him. The middle section, speaking into an era about 100 years later, when Babylon would come, and the reality was, God could say, look, this is going to happen. It's going to be my chastening to you. I'd rather you would obey, but you're not going to obey, but I'm going to be with you in it. I'm going to remove the disobedient from among you, and like a refiner smelts off the impurities, what will remain, I will treasure like pure gold. But not only this, I'm going to provide a faithful servant, one who will set the pattern for you, one who will instruct you, one who will actually become your rescuer. So like Rambo going into the jungle and bringing out the desperate. He will come and rescue. Like Jason Bourne, untouchable, right? Able to go in, bring them out. I will send my faithful servant among you, and he will bring rescue. That's kind of a broad summary of that middle section of Isaiah, and then we get to the third section, which today's text is drawn from. The third section looks even further into the future. Like it looks beyond even what took place in the pages of history. We from our perspective, 2019, we're able to look back on history, right? We can look back and we can even look at some of these prophetic revelations, and we can say, man, in that period of history, this was fulfilled just like God said it would happen. And then here, this period of history, this was fulfilled like God said it would happen. Ultimately, Jesus fulfilled like God said it would happen. They, from their perspective of history, they looked the other way at it, right? They could see, and much of what they could see was clear to them. Some of it was clear in one sense because they caught the vision, but a little bit like you and me looking toward the Rocky Mountains. From a distance, sometimes what you see, it can be a little different. On a clear, bright day like today, especially in the morning, if you look toward the Rocky Mountains, don't they seem like you could almost reach out and touch them? Like they seem so close, you could almost walk to them. And then they'll disappear on a cloudy day, of course, but you get a hazy day, and it's like, who moved the Rockies? Like, how is it that they got 50 miles further away? But then even on a clear day, when it's bright and they're pristine and the sun's shining on them, you look at the Rockies and you realize that I can see the front set of the mountain range, but then I can see peaks back behind. And it can be, you really actually can't tell clearly how far is that next peak, and which one of those peaks is in front of the other. And then what's the valley between those peaks like? What's going on in the middle of that? And I think in a very real way, as the Old Testament prophets wrote and saw what God showed them, sometimes that's what they saw. They saw images, they saw something clearly, but not necessarily knowing what the depth of perception would be. What is it that's going to happen now, and what is it that's going to happen in the future? How is it that I'm supposed to synthesize these things that I am looking at? We get to Isaiah chapter 60, verse 2, and there's a part of that we say, I totally get that, like then and now, right? So chapter 60, verse 2, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. Okay, same now as then, apparently, right? The world is a dark place. And Jesus is inviting you into the light. You see, the world is a dark place, but this prophetic revelation sandwiches that truth about darkness between two significant statements about light. Jesus is inviting you into his light. Charles Jennings knew this, loved Jesus, and would issue that same appeal. George Frederick Handel loved Jesus and would issue that same appeal. They were excited about what they saw, and we need to be excited about what we begin to see as well. As we begin to realize that Jesus is inviting us to step into his light. Because the reality is there is darkness in the world. And this, of course, is no news flash to any of us, right? Breaking news, bad stuff happens everywhere today, right? We get this. And we are invited to see it sandwiched between these two statements about light. Imagine yourself walking through a forest on a very dark night when off in the distance you begin to recognize there's a campfire. Draws us right there, right? Or imagine that you're looking off into the prairies on one of those inky, dark, early mornings, and then you begin to see the first signs of dawn. Like just beginning, it's like, oh, morning's coming. There is light coming in the midst of the darkness. With that in mind, listen to these words. Verse 1, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. So this is bad news, good news, right? Bad news, darkness everywhere. Good news, light has come. Bad news, it's really cold. Good news, Christ is bringing warmth. Bad news is terrifying, but God is with us, comforting us, because light has come. Verses 1 and 3. So Isaiah's building on the middle section of this book, the promise that he would send, that God would send a faithful servant. And Isaiah challenges his listeners. He says, look, wake up! Get up and attend to what is happening around you. The early Christian church was so deeply moved by this passage. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians chapter 5 quotes what seems to be an early Christian hymn based on this passage. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 14. Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Wake up. Wake up. Come alive. And Christ will shine on you. The Apostle Paul here, he's shouting out, he's saying, look, church, he's writing to the church at Ephesus, right? He's written, church, this is you. This is who we are. We are those who live in the light of the faithful servant who is now risen over Jerusalem, risen over Israel. The faithful Son has come, and we are his. We are those in the middle of the mountain range. There's lots of history that's been fulfilled and completed, and there's some stuff we still don't see clearly. We're not quite sure what's going to happen over the next peak or into the next valley. But we are his people, and as we look around, there is ample evidence that God is for us, and that he longs to comfort us. There's evidence that he has drawn near to us, and he's done so bringing mercy and grace, and in doing so, he's delaying judgment. God has drawn near to us, as he promised, with mercy and grace, delaying judgment against our sin. And Jesus is inviting us into his light. This is what it means. This is what it means to live in that light. Listen to kind of the excitement of the age that Isaiah is describing here, verse 3. He says, all nations will come to your light. Mighty kings will come to your radiance. Look and see, for everyone is coming home. Your sons are coming from distant lands. Your little daughters will be carried home. Your eyes will shine, and your heart will thrill with joy. For merchants from around the world will come to you. They will bring you the wealth of their lands. Grand caravans of camels will converge on you. The camels of Midian and Ephah, the people of Sheba, will bring gold and frankincense. Go hint to the wise men that would come, yes? And will come worshiping the Lord. The flocks of Kedar will be given to you, and the rams of Nebaioth will be brought for my altars. I will accept their offerings, and I will make my temple glorious. If you're a parent with grown children, or maybe you're a grandparent, like this is the stuff that just ignites your heart. They're coming home. the coming home. We're all going to be together. Man, it's been a while since we've been together. Maybe it's been years since we've been together. But for Thanksgiving or for Easter, the coming home, the whole family's going to be together. See, the nation of Israel had been scattered. They've been scattered around the known world. And what Isaiah is speaking into this situation, he says that they're coming home. Now, in part, that began in 538 BC, when the remnant, mostly from Judah, came back, returned to Jerusalem, and they began rebuilding the temple. And then about 95 years later, they began rebuilding the walls around Jerusalem. But this is something much, much greater than anything that we've ever seen in physical history. This is something we are still ultimately looking forward to, because they're all coming home, Isaiah says. Now, I've been in modern-day Israel twice in my life, blessed to have been there. There are many people who look at what's going on in the world today, and they would believe that they're seeing this passage fulfilled in modern-day Israel, as people with Jewish heritage are returning to modern-day Israel from America, from England, from Europe, from Russia. And it's a wonderful thing to see. But the Apostle Paul was seeing this as something far beyond anything that has been experienced physically, and just a physical return to the land. Because he saw all of the children of Abraham returning home, the physical descendants as well as the spiritual descendants. Us, we who have been grafted into the nation of Israel, is who he has in mind here. We're all coming home to the Father because of the work of the faithful Son. This means that if you're here this morning and you've been kicking some tires of faith, you've been asking significant, important spiritual questions. This is about you. This invitation to come to the light of Jesus is an invitation to you. Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus, was envisioning, was anticipating a work that God would do, which would bring you, would include you, and would include me. This invitation to come to the brilliance of the sun, the bright, and step out of the dark. Jesus who was born in ancient Bethlehem, taught throughout ancient Palestine, and then was executed only to rise from the dead in ancient Jerusalem. This is the faithful Son that Isaiah anticipated, and he compels all to come. He is why I am here. He's why you are here this morning. And then listen to the vision. What do I see? What do I see flying like clouds to Israel, like doves to their nests? They're the ships from the ends of the earth, from lands that trust in me, led by the great ships of Tarshish. They're bringing the people of Israel home from far away, carrying their silver and gold. They will honor the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has filled you with splendor. Jesus is inviting us to step into and then live in his light. He has come to rescue us in the midst of our darkness. Come to Jesus, friends. What would keep you from coming to him? This morning we're going to celebrate the Lord's table together. This is Jesus' table. As he sets the table before us, his light has risen, and we have seen his natal star, and so we respond and say, come and worship, worship Christ the newborn King. Friends, this table represents the body and the blood of Jesus given for you. Given for you. This table represents his giving of himself in place of you, his victory over the powers of darkness that once held you. This table represents the light of God come into our world. And if you want Jesus, come in pursuit of him this morning, even as he has come in pursuit of you.